Welcome to rush hour Tucson. You notice the stop-and-go traffic out there that would require us to demolish this church behind us. 1987, a traffic study was done, and it predicted that by the year 2030, we would be looking at the need to knock down everywhere from Euclid up to Country Club, make a 150-foot wide corridor of 8 lanes, 6 travel lanes and 2 transit lanes, that would effectively take out about 115 residences and businesses. This church would be one of them. So if that plan goes through, you're standing in a travel lane right now. In 1997, a bond election was passed, and the voters approved $25 million for that project through a county bond election. And then 10 years after that, the RTA election was passed, and the RTA ended up another $42 million for about a $71 million project. There are about $3 million of city impact fee dollars in there, but the sad fact is that now we see that the traffic analyses have not panned out, and so we're getting ready to spend about $71 million on a project that, number one, isn't needed, and number two, we don't have the money for, because about a year ago, even less than that, about 6 months ago, the county announced that they're not sure that they're going to have their $25 million chunk of that, and they won't know until 2016. So we have an underfunded project that's not necessary, and by the looks of the crowd here tonight, I'm thinking it's probably not wanted either. But thankfully, we have a citizens task force that's been formed to participate in the design of this corridor. And they have been issued, there are 13 members of the task force, and they've each been issued a 24-page charter by the TDOT and the RTA. Interestingly, this isn't just a matter of volunteering to serve your time. You've got to sign a charter to participate in this. And so there's some ground rules. Mark Holman and I have been calling these the jury instructions. On page 16 of this charter, it says, a value engineering analysis will be performed to determine if a northward widening is in fact the best choice. That's where we're standing. If a southward widening is the preferable course, the scope will need to be revised. So anybody here who owns a business or a home on the south side of Broadway or is in one of the neighborhoods over there, you're not out of harm's way because they may flip this over to the south side. But catch the operative words in here, the scope will need to be revised. They have reserved the right to themselves to change the scope of this project, and yet every time I reach out to the RTA or TDOT, they say, we can't change nothing because the voters said this is what we're doing. So in their own charter, they have identified the ability to change that. In addition, on that page, it says a significant number of structures are located along the project reach that are either historically or architecturally significant. While not all of these can be avoided, minimizing impacts on them will be important. And so I guess my question to the RTA is, how do you minimize the impact of demolition of this building and 115 others along this corridor? It's an oxymoron. You don't minimize the impact of demolition. On the final page of this charter of the scope, it says, widen this is the approved scope. Widen Broadway Blvd between Euclid Avenue and Country Club Road with 6 travel lanes and 2 dedicated bus lanes. On the final page, it says, by signing this project charter, each individual indicates an understanding and commitment to the scope. And so our message to the RTA and to the members of the Citizens Task Force is, don't sign this charter, make them change the charter so that there's some outside-of-the-box thinking before we move ahead with this alignment. We have several other speakers here tonight. One of the guys that I talked to in advance of setting this up was former Ward 5 Councilmember Steve Leal, and he said, and he was quite adamant about this. He said that when this was going before the mayor and council in 2005, the council was promised that the RTA would engage in what he called open dialogue with respect to the design. The RTA needs to change this charter so that they are honoring the commitment that they made to the mayor and council back in 2005 before this thing ever reached the ballot. This is not my rally gathering press conference. It is for all the people who are gathered here. and Ward 5 is directly affected by it. Representing Councilmember Fimbres is Mark Kerr, and Mark is here to say a few words on Richard's behalf. Mark.
Thank you. One of the first things when Councilmember Fimbres... Okay, can you hear me now? Thank you. I'm not used to using a microphone or speaking in public. One of the first things that the council member dealt with when he came into office was the proposed widening of 22nd Street, Keno to I-10. The neighbors, the businesses approached him to say they had questions and concerns about the process, what was going on, the scope of the project, and the council member went to the authorities and put a hold and a stop to that project. It can be done. And one of the people we should give a big round of applause is Angie Quiroz with Barrio Santa Rita for this. It can happen. It can happen. Now, March 6th, the mayor and council had an agenda item about the Broadway Corridor project, thanks to the vice mayor and council member Fimbres. One of the questions that came up was about when was this plan drawn up? 1987. How many people here have celebrated their, who are married have celebrated their silver anniversary? Would we really want to? You really want to celebrate this? 25 years. Had a traffic study been done? No. We have a task force of 13 people. Let them do their work free and unabated. Let them look at this, because they've had a 25-year-old plan which is sat on the shelf. Nothing more, nothing less. It's time to get the research done for today, to have a plan for today. And to you all here, thank you for coming out for this. I mean, it's so great to see you here. Thank you.
If you've been following some of the email listservs going around, you'll note that there are probably between 15 and 20 neighborhoods represented here tonight. And that's an excellent. These are from the west side, the south side, far east side. The two that are most directly impacted, if the northern boundary of this alignment is the one that winds up prevailing, are Rincon Heights and Sam Hughes. Colby Henley is here to speak on behalf of the Rincon Heights group.
Thanks everybody for coming out. First, welcome to Rincon Heights, the neighborhood behind you here, which is about to be recognized by the National Register of Historic Places as the most architecturally diverse neighborhood in Tucson. So welcome. To start, I want to make clear that we aren't anti a Broadway project. What we are against is a blind allegiance to a 150-foot right-of-way and an 8-lane configuration based on a 25-year-old plan. We don't think that's an efficient use of tax dollars. I could tell you about a lot of things, and I'm sure some speakers after me will go into more detail about inaccurate and ever-changing traffic studies, loss of significant number of historic structures, loss of small businesses and the backbone of the tax base that they represent, how the loss of that vibrant business community actually reduces the walkability of the neighborhoods and forces residents to drive for those same services, how the addition of lanes actually becomes a perpetual maintenance cost that we pass on to future taxpayers, and finally the mismatch of 8 lanes connecting into downtown. So based on these reasons and a lot more, the Citizens Task Force should have the authority to rescope the project by considering more up-to-date and cost-effective solutions to address any future traffic capacity needs while still protecting neighborhoods and businesses. I have here 3 studies, just examples that I came across of new data and the kind of thinking that we should be applying to this project. From October 2010, a white paper on using technology to minimize traffic congestion and increase roadway efficiency. From November 2011, how widening roads in urban settings to handle more traffic is a self-fulfilling exercise because generated or induced traffic often fills a significant portion of any new lanes that are built. And finally, from just April of 2012, just literally a few weeks ago, a study came out showing that between 2004 and 2011, Americans drove 6% less, and in the last decade, young folks aged 16 to 34 drove 23% less. So that alone should make us question the assumptions that the traffic analysis and the projections that the project is based on, to go back and look at those. Again, those are just examples, just 3 that I pulled out. There's some really smart people out there doing some really creative research and thinking about how to handle traffic in urban settings. And we have an opportunity to tap into that and really be creative with what we do here on Broadway. So again, we're asking that the Citizens Task Force be given the authority to rescope the project, including both the lane configuration and the right-of-way width, because we don't want a project that just does the least amount of harm. We want a project that actually enhances the livability of the surrounding community and provides for a thriving business corridor.
It's about 10 after 6, which would indicate that this is rush hour, so again, note the stop and go traffic that's going to justify needing to expand this to 8 lanes. So. We also are looking at doing away with some of the businesses along this corridor. Our general fund relies on sales tax revenue. We have about a $444 million general fund with which we fund police and fire and transportation and parks and all of that. We have some businesses here also. Jessica Schumann, come on up, runs Kismet up the street here, and she's going to speak, one of our 2 speakers on behalf of the businesses, and we have another one coming later.
Hello, thank you. I wrote a statement because I'm a nervous speaker here. These are not just buildings. They are the homes, businesses, schools, places of worship, etc., to which people have made their lives. It is on a rare occasion in our city where one can comfortably walk 2 blocks and find Ethiopian food, veterinary care, haircuts, Chinese herbs, accounting services, art galleries, and so much more. Each contributes to the richly diverse uniqueness that brings us to this stretch of Broadway and makes us proud to call this our home. And I am here today, not just, thank you, as a small business owner among the 115 properties scheduled for demolition through eminent domain. I am also here as a longtime resident. I have been using Broadway for east-west travel for 24 years. I am here daily at varied hours and have never experienced or witnessed traffic that warrants what this plan entails. Even so, we understand more than ever that the mass destruction of small local businesses and historic properties denigrates the quality of life for all residents and future generations. Our property is home to 2 small businesses and a nonprofit organization under one roof. We thoughtfully, even painstakingly, negotiated for our property because of its close proximity to other very specific businesses and surrounding neighborhoods. Our location is essential to our mission, successful livelihood, and quality of life. Within the same plaza are 2 businesses whose specialized services we use regularly. They offer our nonprofit a discounted rate, and we recommend clients to them for their expertise. Such partnerships help us all to grow, build relationships, and foster community. If the Broadway Corridor project was to go through as currently planned, the vast majority of businesses could never create what we have now in any other location. And for us, we simply could not afford to relocate to an area that comes close to offering these same qualities. Is there even such a place? For now, as this plan looms, we are all in a state of limbo, bringing questions great and small. Can I afford to retire if I can't manage relocating? Will I be able to buy another home nearby at comparable cost? Is it fair to apply for a solar energy grant if our building is going to be destroyed? Would we even be considered? What if my business fails during construction? Should we plant trees? Will I have a job? At a recent RTA technical committee meeting, they held a vote to not make any changes to their 20-year plan. This is not acceptable. The RTA can make adaptations in response to current conditions and concerns while still honoring their commitments to the region. In fact, I believe this extension should be a condition of their commitment, given that times change, economies change, and 20-year-old studies prove wrong. And while there is a lot of discussion over the fiscal aspects of RTA projects, a critical piece in this conversation, we have further obligation. There are progressive models in other growing cities and common sense. This plan, as it stands, is reckless and would forever change both lives and the landscape of our beloved city. No plan that annihilates 115 homes and small local businesses is reasonable. We urge the RTA and, of course, Pima County and the City of Tucson to proactively and creatively address this matter together and now. We must rethink and rescope the Broadway Corridor project in a way that enriches, not destroys community. While it surely won't be easy, given all that is at stake, we must come together with courage, transparency, civility, and compromise to find real solutions. Thank you.
That's excellent, Stephen. And one of the things that Jessica just pointed out, which is so absolutely true, is that we are paralyzing investment in this corridor with the uncertainty that's in front of us right now. John O'Dowd is going to be our next speaker. He represents the Sam Hughes neighborhood. John and I were at a meeting 2 months ago or something at a new place called Casitas on Broadway. It's a new... it's a new assisted living home about half a mile up east of us here. They just got some about a 50-foot wide swath of landscaping put in, and as we were standing in their meeting room talking about their groundbreaking ceremony, several of them mentioned, "Gee whiz, that landscaping is going to be a travel lane. Why do we even bother putting the money in, and why do we even bother leasing our space here?" So a lot is at stake here, and John's got more to say about it.
Thank you, Steve. Hello. I really am impressed with the number of people. Oh, can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay. I'm impressed with the turnout. It's wonderful. I want to mention one thing that I also thought was wonderful was when we were to select the members of the Citizens Task Force, the word went out, anyone who wants to volunteer can do so. So I got a list of the number of people who volunteered. It's amazing how many people there are on that list. We only were able to select 13, but the people on that list were all very interested in it. I think we have a good spirit in this town of people who care about what happens to it and what its transportation needs are and what its neighborhood's needs are. You know, we prize our commercial along the north side of Broadway. I mean, it's a wonderful part to have next to our neighborhood. We feel it's part of our neighborhood, and we want to keep it. We don't think we need to go down to Park Mall or over some other place. We like to patronize our own businesses, and we like them there. Parking is good. They're pretty successful businesses. They're all small businesses. Except for the bank, I guess. Chase is pretty big, but most of them are small businessmen, and they really and women, and it's going to be hard on them to move, and we're going to lose. If we lose them, we're going to lose an integral part of our neighborhood. I had my legal assistant look at the amount of property taxes all these properties from Euclid to Country Club pay, and that's $630,000 every year that we'll lose in revenue. And I still have to try to figure out how much sales tax revenue we would lose from all the businesses that actually sell things and levy that money. And that money's not going to come back. So we have productive businesses. They're paying taxes, and we need to keep them. And the impact on the neighborhoods, I think they will deteriorate. I think it's it's wonderful to be able to go. I miss Austin's, okay, I have to say that. But I mean, there are other wonderful neighborhood stores and such along Broadway. But it's wonderful to have them there. We want to have them, we keep them, and we hope that this a particular transportation project will not take them on either side of Broadway. So thank you all for coming, and hand it back to
Since 1954, I think I'm getting this day right, Hirsch's Shoes has been occupying a building a little bit to the southeast of us. In addition to that, this church, by the way, was chartered in 1950. So we're talking about structures that are over half a century old. Sid Hirsch is here to talk about the impact that this project will have on his business, his plans for going forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. My name is Sid Hirsch. I'm the owner of Hirsch's Shoes, or the president, actually. Okay, can you hear me better now? We have been located at 2934 East Broadway for 58 years. According to Inside Tucson Business, we are the 35th oldest business in Tucson. And surprisingly enough, our business is excellent. In spite of the recession, we are actually back to pre-recession levels of sales. So why am I against the widening of Broadway? Well, in my long retail career, I have lived through 2 street widenings. And I can tell you, as a small retailer, they are a disaster. I only made it because we had several stores at that time. I do not intend to go through another. I will close the store if this widening takes place. 6 people will lose their job, and Tucson will lose a great shoe store. Councilman Steve is, as far as I'm concerned, 100% right. Widening Broadway is a waste of public funds. Take the money and resurface our streets. Do something useful with it. Thank you.
What a concept, huh? By the way, if we are successful, if you are successful in getting this project retooled to the $42 million RTA allocation, we're not kissing off the $25 million at the county that we voted for the county. That money needs to be retooled within the city limits to resurfacing our roads. We're not giving that away. 3 to go. The organizer of the bus. We've heard a lot about businesses, about residences. We also need to hear about transit, alternate modes. The organizer of the Bus Riders Union is Reverend Stuart Taylor, and he's here to say a few words on their behalf.
The Bus Riders Union is very glad to be here today to join our voice with all of your voices in calling upon the RTA for a reevaluation of the Broadway plan. Why is the Bus Riders Union here with you? You all know that we are here first and foremost as advocates for bus riders and for a first-class bus system with affordable fares for all the citizens of Tucson. We believe access to mass transit is a civil right, an economic necessity, and in an era of climate change, a matter of environmental justice. But the Bus Riders Union is here today because we join you in the commitment to work for a comprehensive transportation system which is absolutely vital to the well-being of this city. The Bus Riders Union believes that a first-class transportation system for all of Tucson includes not only a strong bus system, but good roads that do not destroy our vehicles or our neighborhoods. A first-class transportation system for Tucson means we must be very aware of the interface between our neighborhoods and major transportation corridors because one must enhance the other. We are here today because the time has come to reevaluate the plan to broaden Broadway. We are keenly aware that the resources to meet all the transportation needs of this city are stretched extremely thin. We call upon the RTA to join the City of Tucson and all the stakeholders in the Broadway corridor in a timely reevaluation of what is needed here. What can enhance the neighborhoods along Broadway? What can enhance access to mass transit along Broadway? What kind of plan is most affordable and sustainable for the life of Tucson? These questions need answers. We cannot go forward until these questions are answered. Thank you.
mentioned that Sid's business has been around for 58 years, the church since 1950. That speaks to a lot of historicity in this area. The president of the Tucson Historical Preservation Foundation is Damian Klenko, and he knows more about this than he has forgotten more about this than I've learned in my term on the council. He's going to stand up here and share with you some of that element of what we're trying to stand in front of right now. So, Damian.
Thank you so much, Steve. Make no mistake about it, this is a defining moment in our city's history. At a time when everywhere in America looks like anywhere in America, Tucson must leverage and enhance our architecture and historic resources to create a unique identity, not demolish them for an unwanted and unnecessary street expansion. Broadway is the backbone of our city. It runs from downtown, it connects our neighborhoods, it connects to commercial shopping districts. It's lined with unique mid-century modern buildings and homes constructed at a time of great economic boom after World War I and World War II. Between downtown and Country Club is an area that has a rich sense of place. First, a collection of Spanish revival and arts and crafts bungalows, many of which have been adaptively reused, converted into thriving small businesses. This transitions to an assortment of modernist stores and commercial buildings known in the mid-20th century as the Sunshine Mile. Yet it's been allowed to languish because of a ridiculous transportation plan, a plan that was developed when I was in second grade. So that fact alone should cause a pause to reflect on our current needs. Today, this plan will touch and certainly impact numerous historic districts, including the pending Rincon Heights, Sam Hughes, El Encanto, Colonial Solanas, and other neighborhoods eligible for listing on the National Register of Historic Places, including Broadmoor and Miles. This section of Broadway is truly unique within our city, claiming architectural work by some of Tucson's most significant mid-century modern architects. Broadway Village was designed by Josias Jostler. Next door, a building by Juan Warner Baz, a master architect from Mexico City. The sculptural Chase Bank building at the northwest corner of Broadway and Country Club was designed by the award-winning firm of Friedman and Joe Bush. The cast concrete Continental building was designed by the renowned modernist architect Nicholas Zekeller, who also designed the Wilmot Library. He also designed the building that's occupied by It's a Blast Gallery and 31 through 41 North Tucson Boulevard that would be impacted. Broadway Podiatry includes cast reliefs by modernist sculptor Charles Clements. Miles Elementary would be impacted. It's a pre-World War II era building designed by Roy Place and Lyman, who designed many of the historic buildings at Old Main, in front of Old Main and Main Gate at the U of A. Target Furniture Store just down the street was also designed by Roy Place and his son Lou Place, and is a rare surviving example of their modernist architecture. Child's Family Services was designed by Ralph Haver, a really significant architect who is celebrated in Phoenix. Hirsch's Shoes, Friedman and Joe Bush. In fact, Friedman and Joe Bush built their offices, and it would be demolished if the northern side of the street was taken. 2030 Broadway was designed by an architect named Annie Rysdale, a woman who was such a pioneer. For 19 years, she was the only woman who held an architectural license in the state of Arizona. Other works include buildings by Kane Nelson and Ware and Art Brown. In fact, this corridor has samples of almost every major modernist architect who worked in Tucson, and is truly unique. If this plan, in its current iteration, moves forward, we will lose this architectural heritage and this context. We should instead be enhancing and improving this streetscape, cultivating it back into one of our city's dynamic shopping districts that builds off of its modernist forms and character. This area should be a great source of pride and economic activity. We need to be keenly aware of the rich architectural legacy we have inherited, and we must develop an acute responsibility to preserve the vibrant culture and homes and lives of our community.
Sounded like Arizona Illustrated, didn't it? Look, we don't want this to end here tonight. This gathering needs to form a template for similar discussions in other projects around the city. We have other conversations that need to happen with respect to the Grant Road overlay. There's a Kolb Road extension, there's 22nd Street, and there are more. This is just a wonderful opportunity for the RTA and for TDOT, the city and the county, to see how much we care about appropriate and intelligent design. And as Colby listed off a while ago, there are some smart people who can engage that process if the bureaucracy will simply listen. This is not just a city issue, though. We have the County Supervisor Richard Elias here from District 5. he is one of the guys who gets it. He understands that the city, every taxpayer within the city limits is also a county resident. In fact, if my numbers are right, it's something like 60% of Richard's constituents are City of Tucson residents as well, and taxpayers. Richard's going to close it down for us here tonight. I really appreciate you showing up. Appreciate all of you showing up as well. And so after Richard's done, we're done for the night. Thank you, but hang around and chat with the folks.
Thank you, Steve. All right. Hey, everybody. How you doing tonight? What a good crowd. All right. First off, let's say thank you to our speakers and to Steve K especially for putting this thing together. Huh? Let's give it up right now. Yeah. And of course to all of you for coming out here tonight and showing that you care about this beautiful place where we live. And I see so many friends, and I see them from all the way from Sahuarita to way up north that are here gathered with us today. Thank you. Let's give it up for ourselves right now. One more time. It's important to see that. You know, I grew up in Armory Park. And when I was about 10 years old, there was this huge discussion going on about something called the Butterfield route. And people remember that. It never got built, did it? That's because neighborhoods started to organize and create historic designations for themselves. And it made a big, huge difference. And really what it did was to change the political world in some very important ways. We're still living in that same paradigm. And what you see tonight here, gathered from all these neighbors, is what people who involve themselves in the political world in redistricting call a community of concern. You like that? We are a community of concern tonight, today, always, because we share each other's lives. Our children share with each other. Our families share with each other. We share these roads. And you know what? Everyone here realizes that a good idea is a good idea and a bad idea is a bad idea. And sometimes you gotta change a bad idea. Right? Because the best thing about a plan is that it's only a plan. That's right. It's only a plan. The problem is when it gets completed without rethinking it before you get going. How many of you can afford to do that with your own household budgets? You can't, can you? You got to rethink it all the time. So why doesn't government do that? Well, heck, that's $1 million question. If I had that, I wouldn't be standing right here. I'd probably be over there making a big check out to Michelle Obama. But I'm not here. I'm out here with you guys tonight, right? Because this is where we belong. This is where we belong. Everybody from Poets Corner to Wuna, Barrio San Antonio, Rincon Heights. Yeah, let's hear it for Rincon Heights. You know? We used to call it the student ghetto, but that ain't right. That ain't right at all. It's people's homes. I used to live right here across the street from this church. And we watched this congregation many times from the front porch of my house. We said, those are nice people over there. We respect them. But we lost those homes. They got torn down. Things change. We can accept change. We can. But it's going to be thoughtful. It's going to be well conceived. And it's going to be based on those families and the lives they lead right here. That's what our duty is as government. But that's what your duty is as neighbors, your responsibility to each other. Your responsibility to our community. I can see from the nodding heads out there that we don't take this lightly. And we are going to force change to happen. Everybody got that? Force change to happen. That's a difficult concept because there's risk involved in it. But I don't see anybody here who's afraid of that. I don't see anybody here who's afraid of that. I see people who are committed. Let's stick together. Let's remain committed. Let's force that change. Let's rethink this project. Let's use our money wisely. Let's take care of the community that has raised us. Let's take care of the community that has raised us. Let's take care of the community that cares about our kids. They're the ones who are going to deal with the repercussions if we don't force change to happen. They will deal with it, not us. Think about it. We can't have that. So join together, stick together. Join together, stick together. That's very important in this process. The other thing is spreading the word. Because everybody here likes to talk, right? Because I know a lot of you. Y'all like to talk. Maybe not as much as me, but y'all like to talk. Next time we have an event, bring 2 other people. Bring 2 other people, and this crowd will be 3 times the size it is right now. By bringing 2 other people. If we do that, our voices will be louder. Our voices get louder. We start to understand how to force change to happen. The important thing is that in doing that, we're responsible, one more time, to that community that raised us. Thank you very much for being here. Let's stay together. Let's stay strong. Let's all work together and make meaningful change happen right here in the center of Tucson, right here in Midtown. Thank you all very much.
RTA is Regional Transportation Authority.
This is the May 2006 bond, $2 billion bond measure. That's the
$2 billion.
$2 billion bond measure, and it's the single most rotten-looking election that ever took place in Pima County.
It seems to me that in a democracy or a republic, it's foundational to get accurate readings of the public will.
Yeah.
And if the machinery is faulty, the reading of the public will can be different than it actually is. So in order to have a good democracy or even a republic, we need machines that, what I learned in my psychology class in college, are reliable and they have validity and reliability.
Stuart, you know, the problem is the machines are fine.
Oh, it's
the instructions to the machines. They're instructed to cheat, and they can cheat with them. But the machines do what they're told to do. They're just told to cheat.
Bill, you know, you have an interesting point, because Diebold seems to have questions in terms of election integrity. But I also have them at where I bank, and there's not a problem with them there.
Well, I think you put your finger on the situation with Diebold, because when it comes to money, they can do it where it's secure.
Oh, okay.
When it comes to voting, the software is actually created to facilitate cheating. Wow. The software is created, and they tell the election department, well, you can go in, and if there are problems, then you can make corrections so that all the warts are gone and it looks good. Well, those techniques that enable you to take the warts out and make it look good can enable you to make it come out the way that you want to. So they're actually built to cheat.
We had a program maybe 2 or 3 years ago, And Jim, you brought a video, and I wish we had it today.
Yeah. But we do have another video, and it's clip 3. And that clip right there, if I could set it up, goes into the memory cards, which is a very important part of this case that we have today, and we're showing. And if we could play clip 3.
Just contain votes. There was a program or executable code.
Well, if someone would have told me that in this system there is a living thing, an executable, modifiable program stored in the same place as the very data which is the most secure in this system, I would say you have to be misunderstanding something, crazy, or lying.
Hari wrote a report for black box voting, warning that this program, lurking in the memory card, could be used to change the result of an election.
What happened after that was that Diebold basically dismissed and stonewalled the report.
Diebold sent letters to officials across America denying that there was any executable code on the memory cards. Hari had discovered that Diebold's memory cards effectively allowed negative votes.
Well, then, go dead. What we're going to do here is modify one card and then bring it to the election supervisor Iyer Sanchez's office. Plug it as the real card in any election to the real election system and run ballots through, and that's the same system which have been used in a number of previous elections. And we'll see that what is the power in the ballot box. This should be just an empty box containing the votes, but it has more capabilities than that. So it's a very simple process. You just add the card in, you run the rewrite program, tell where to find the scanner, and tell exactly what file you want to be put in, and off it goes.
Hari's hack is a variation on stuffing the ballot box before anyone has voted. But this is always suspicious because you end up with more votes than voters. So Hari used 5 negative votes for one candidate and then gave the other one 5 positive votes. So as people cast their ballots, the total number of votes always equals the total number of voters. But was Hari right? Black box voting went back to Tallahassee for the ultimate test.
Yeah. Pretty shocking, huh?
Wow. That's the same electronic ballot boxes we use in Pima County.
Wow. And after this, black box voting sent a notice around to election departments to let them know that you could use a machine, as Harry did, to program the precinct scanners so that they would print false results. So
that's scary.
Well, Pima County said, wow, that's great. Let's buy one. So less than 2 weeks later, they bought a machine. Our one guy who operates our computer testified under oath that he practiced, and sure enough, you could get it to print false results.
That's scary.
We have the purchase order where Pima County bought the thing.
I'm sorry, what's that?
We have the purchase order where Pima County bought the thing. We know what happened.
That is scary.
And the database indicates that there were things that went wrong, clearly. And you know, on this one statement, this statement I sent you, that has 10, where there's smoke, there's fire. And we list 10 items, but there's really a lot more than that. You know, starting election night, when election day, when I started noticing that machines were failing in the field because of misprogramming on these electronic ballot box memory cards. And then they declared it was only, you know, 25 machines, when actually it was 70-some machines that failed. It could have been high as 160, and this is all because of the memory card. And then the database indicates that after the election, 80-some memory cards were loaded at least 2 times, if not to 6 times. They didn't back up the election until Friday after the election, because they were still tweaking the memory cards. There's so much things that have gone wrong on this particular election. and I don't mean to pick just on the RTA, but, you know, we're not very rich people, and, you know, we got a great lawyer, but he has limited resources, and we haven't been giving him a lot of money that he needs to support.
For those who don't know.
Other elections that we would,
Yeah, but, you know, the county in that case, they started the case by saying there's no security problems. Then they realized that weren't going to work. They go, yeah, the security problems are really bad. But we can't let these people have the data of what happened in past elections. And they spent like $1 million keeping data from us when there's no security problem at all. And that's when we learned that they're hiding something big.
And he admitted it on the tape that there are problems. Okay, let's roll.
One, yeah.
Here's where we have much agreement, surprisingly. And this, in some sense, may make the trial either shorter, or at least when you go to unravel everything that we said, you'll have some real easy basis upon which to draw some conclusions. There is no question that there are significant flaws with the GEMS software from a security standpoint, not from an accuracy standpoint, but a security standpoint. Second, the databases themselves are not secure. We know that. And we agree that they can be altered using Microsoft Access. We know that these databases are essential for programming the memory cards of the machines. Why anybody would want to have this kind of insecure software out in the public domain, however, is something that is beyond us. We don't understand. I mean, certainly we understand the need for transparency, but surely there must be a balance for security as well. And the problem here that we have, and I don't think there's any disagreement about this among the experts in some sense, is that, gee, if this software is really that vulnerable, we should get a new system. Well, that might be good in a perfect world, but Judge, neither you, nor me, nor Mr. Reisner, nor anybody in this courtroom right here is going to be able to affect that change. That change is to...
So that was the public records case, and now we're trying a lawsuit that actually can change the process, and they're fighting tooth and nail.
But you got him on tape.
Tell me about it.
Bill, you want to say something?
Don't worry about it. The county says those remarks were out of context. Look, I mean, Stuart, I'm telling you, what this case is about is the county's continued right to cheat. We want to stop that, and they like it. That's it. And they're using our money to defend their right to cheat.
Wait, you mean taxpayer money?
Taxpayer money, yeah.
Stuart,